Hey folks, doing here and done here. We're gonna be taking a look at some of the new sets here on the PTS and some of the effects that they have. So good stuff here. First off, we're gonna be looking at the overworld sets. Then we'll get into the dungeon sets as well. I'll talk a little bit also on the crafted sets, though I don't have a version of them to show right now. So first up, one of the versions in Overworld is Crafty Elfique. This is the light armor set, and it's going to give you maximum magicka, and a crap ton more magicka. Currently, this is probably going to be a go-to for a lot of magic casters, especially for non-pet classes that can't get necropotence, but even folks that can get necropotence may go for this. What I hear most people talking about right now and what they're expecting to use is going to be the magicka here, monster helm of some type, depending on what your fight is. PvE or PvP might go for something like Zane's, or you can go something else like Valken Scoria, always a good old one to use. But then, depending on what your class is, you can go with something like Bright Throat, Spinners, or something else there. But this is a lot of magicka being stacked up there, and it's basically the same equivalent as Draugrs being dropped out of, I think, Direfrost Keep. But being an overworld set here, this is going to be, you're going to be able to buy this up. So yeah, people are going to be collecting this. If you want to make money the first day that Elsweyr comes out here, start grinding this stuff out and selling it immediately in the zones outside of Elsweyr, and people will probably buy it up pretty quick until the market settles down a bit more. I'm going to skip over this effective stuff now. Undertaker. 4% healing take. Sorry, this is the heavy armor set, and this is 4% healing taking, maximum health, 4% healing done, and adds an extra health to it, and also another 5 item bonus to it. When you deal damage with light attacks, you apply a minor lifesteal to your enemy for 8 seconds, healing you and your allies for 600 health every 1 second for 600 health for every 1 second for damage to them. It can concur at once every 8 seconds. Alright, so this is a very interesting set here. I actually think this might be useful in both PvE and PvP. The ability to apply minor lifesteal with just a light attack makes it kind of interesting, especially if you're trying to focus on a boss. You don't even have to have... If you have enough with, let's say, energy orbs and other effects, and just minor lifesteal, your party can just heal themselves, and you can just forget about that and focus on damage, making this kind of useful. For PvP, again, minor lifesteal is a, you just go in, you hit people with it, and you just get the health back. It does kind of suck. It gets halved when you're inside PvP, but still, it's kind of nice. But at the other time, or at the other point of this, the healing taken and healing done with the 2 and 4 piece on this, I don't know if it's really that great. It has some issues to it as well, but being a heavy armor set, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? I'll have to say take a pass on it. It's going to be, again, sold first day probably, so grab yourself some pieces. Try selling it for what you can. I don't think it's going to be as much demand, but might be interesting to see if somebody makes a build out of this. It's going to be nasty to go against. Now, do I have the other set on? Nope. I'll just here while I try finding the last set here that we were looking at. Here we go. This is an interesting set as well. Apologies, didn't have it. I didn't bother even taking the weapons out because it's kind of a crappy set. This is a medium armor set here, and you get magic recovery, stamina recovery, and reduces the radius you can be detected by sneaking for 2 meters, reducing the cost to sneak by 10. And then when you're crouching and not blocking, you restore 670 magicka and stamina, and heal for 670 health every second. This is probably going to be passed up pretty quickly here. This is kind of resembling another set out there. which already kind of does similar things here, but it has no damage to it. The reduction to healing, the reduction to detection radius isn't really that great for anything except for maybe PvE. So you can go ahead and stack this with various other sets to get yourself a little bit less radius to steal. But the 5-piece, not great for PvP, not great for PvE as well. Definitely take a hard pass on that. Now, in the other sets here is the trial sets. So, perfect Locistes armor cops. These are the medium armor sets here. So, weapon damage, minor slayer, increasing damage done. Weapon damage, critical. Note that the 5-piece, the perfector has the 5-piece I added here. On the normal versions, you only get up to the 4-piece there, and then the 5-piece effect will still affect there. So that weapon critical at the end there, not included in the normal set. You actually have to do veteran to get the perfect. Now, when you activate a synergy, gain Major Slayer for 15 seconds, increasing your damage done in Dungeons and Trials by 15%. This is actually pretty good. You're going to be able to keep Major Slayer up quite a bit if your healer is putting out synergies regularly, which they typically do to give resources back through energy orbs, spears, or other things like that. Your teammates will also have other synergies coming out there, and getting Major Slayer on that is, I feel it's going to be pretty nice, depending. Also has a nice uptime with that 15% there. War Machine might be the only other thing that gives Major Slayer, if I remember correctly. But that requires somebody else. That requires you activating a synergy to give it to somebody else in the group. This actually just gives it to you in general. Is it going to be best in slot? Not quite sure. Reliquant is still pretty high because it gives regular ticks of damage, and it can really get up there if you have a good rotation. But this might actually be pretty good for folks without a good rotation. Simply because you don't have to keep a good rotation to get that synergy up there. You just place a bunch of dots on, activate this, and you're getting an additional 15% overall. Next up is the light armor set. Navintaz breaches. Magic recovery, major Aegis, reducing damage taken. Magicka, and when you activate one of your allies activates one of your synergies, you and the ally that activated the synergies get 12% cost reduction for non-ultimate abilities for 3 seconds. This will concur once every 6 seconds. I'm gonna say this is probably not that great. Most groups that are inside trials already should have good sustain to keep up good damage. And the low time for this, the 3 seconds, occurring every 6 seconds, so it has like half uptime. You can't keep it up indefinitely. Only 12% on top of that, and it's not including your ultimates. Yeah, I wouldn't say this is that great. It's a healer set, but honestly, you have other stuff in the healer line that I think is going to be more useful than this. So I'd probably say skip it, unfortunately. Now the heavy damage line. Perfect Yolana Corinne's Curse. Maximum health, major Aegis done at all times, reducing the damage you take. Stamina, health on the 5-piece, and when you taunt an enemy, give you and 11 other group members minor courage for 15 seconds, increasing weapon and spell damage by 129. Can concur once every 8 seconds. I think this one here is actually a pretty good heavy set. Versus what is it? Powerful Assault. Powerful Assault, you have to cast a assault ability, something like Calatrava, Vigor, etc. Add to your rotation. For a tank that's running real low on stamina, it's kind of hard to do so. But this, you just taunt an enemy, and as long as you're doing it every 8 seconds, your teammates are getting major courage. most taunts will last for about 15 seconds. So you should have, as long as you're keeping taunt up on the enemy, you're giving minor courage to all your teammates. Even as an off tank here, you should be doing something there to get that. Burn board here, puncture. You taunt them for 15 seconds, so it's a perfect match for this set here. I definitely think this is going to be something that people will use. Only issues I see with this. Well, Alkosh is still pretty major. Off tank might use this, depending. Let's see, Thorax Pact, Alkosh are typically two that have to be used, regardless of the content. So because that gives pretty good penetration to a lot of characters there. So you're gonna have to either take out Eben, which, well, no. Yeah. Alkosh, Thorax, Eben, which gives extra health, or Plague? No. Trying to think of another heavy set that might be used, but this might actually fit in just perfectly with that other set that people need to be using. So yeah, I would definitely think that's going to be used primarily for folks. And I forgot I forgot to take it out of the box here, but here you go. The last light armor set, which is more of the DPS set here. Spell critical, minor slayer. A spell critical, spell damage, max magicka, and reduces the cost of your magic abilities by 8%. When you kill an enemy, restore 2,150 magicka and gain major expedition for 8 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 30%. Not a good set for trials. It's a good set for arenas, on the other hand, though. For Maelstrom Arena, this is basically the equivalent of Vicious Ophidian. It gives a lot of restore, gives major expedition, and should hopefully have a good uptime to it. Whenever you kill enemies, get major expedition to it. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good trade-off there, and pretty good stats for doing that. That might actually help out in magical DK, which are typically kind of clunky going around the arena. So overall, I think that's pretty good there. Now, these are all on the PTS right now. Anything that we're looking at may change come in the future. They may try to tweak things, they may try to add things based on how things work or look. But again, I definitely recommend getting some of those overworld sets. People are going to be buying them the first day. It doesn't even matter if the sets are good or bad. When it comes to release, people are still going to buy them. But definitely take a look at the Alphic set if you're trying to sell and trying to do resales as well. And possibly look at the Undertaker set. For your trial runners, of course, some of these various trial sets look pretty good here. But it actually looks like we have a heavy armor set that's going to be useful. A medium armor set that's going to be pretty useful. The light armor sets kind of poop, but I mean, you have other sets inside of Cloud Rest which work out fairly well. Anyways, that is Here of None. That is the various sets coming with Elsweyr, DL, and Tamriel.